Hello, and welcome to Levels Plus Whenever episode 155. And we're going to be doing a looking back episode after a little break from doing those, 2000 to 2004. But first, I got some pickups to share. I've got the Final Fantasy Tactics LVLS Chronicles for the Switch, as well as the Mario Galaxy Duo for the Switch. I'm going to my favorite game store in a couple days, so there will be a video just on that trip for episode 156 coming up very shortly. But let's get into looking back. Welcome back to Looking Back. I had to re-record this episode from scratch after I recorded all of the other ones, and I just haven't had time or the voice, thanks COVID, to get back to this, so we're making it up so we can start knocking out the rest of these episodes. The reason why I had to redo it is Resident Evil right here was too low. I forgot I put it on my top 111, so it should have been higher than it was. So therefore, we had to redo the whole thing. I've already sorted them by preference. I think I started doing that with the episode that followed this one. It's been a while since I recorded that, so I don't quite remember. Just to save a little bit of time, because one thing I've learned about doing ranked episodes is that the ranking part can take like a half an hour to an hour, depending on the scope of the ranking. And this could easily transform into a very long episode, and I don't really want it to. So here we are with 2000 through 2004. Fascinating time in games. The Dreamcast had just come out and is basically wrapped up by 2001. Absolutely wild that console only had essentially a 3-year lifespan. The GameCube launched, the PlayStation 2 launched, and the Xbox launched, although you won't see any Xbox stuff on my list. The Game Boy Advance launched as well. And this was the period I was playing the most PC games. So we have Days Ex, Morrowind, Heroes of Might and Magic 4, Age of Mythology, Sid Meier's Pirates, Cave Story. I did not get into PC gaming a whole lot after these 5 years. I just kind of backed off. Not sure exactly why. I just don't prefer to play on my computer, honestly. I prefer playing on a console. But it is just a really fascinating time for games, for me. This will also be like the only time we're going to see much from Ubisoft on this list, or Activision, because they got worse after the early 2000s. Although granted, in Ubisoft's case, they were bad, just we didn't know. We didn't know how bad it was. So let's get started with the year 2000. And as with all looking back episodes, I'll touch on the top 5 in more detail. Skies of Arcadia, obviously one of my favorite games of all time, in my top 10. Dying for some sort of remaster, remake, something. Vice, Ica, and Fina are the best trio of RPG protagonists outside of Fire Emblem Three Houses for me. I think that everything about Skies more or less comes together beautifully. Wonderful art design, fantastic world design, fun battle engine. Shame we have to do it so much. Incredible music. The sense of exploration is almost unrivaled in a role-playing game. Just a wonderful experience. Perfect Dark. One of my absolute favorite first-person shooters, and one of the last ones we'll see on this list. I think Rare really knew what they were doing, even with the loss of some of the GoldenEye talent to Free Radical. There's some technical limitations, but they pushed that N64 hardware as hard as they could. the fact that we still don't really have like co-op, counter-op stuff until like the last 5-10 years, the way that Perfect Dark tried to implement it says a lot about Rare's ambition at this point. And it's just a super fun game. Especially, I love the multiplayer mode. It's so fun. Ogre Battle 64 is my favorite in that particular series. It's the only one I've actually played to completion. Sadly, I need to get into more Ogre Battle games and Tactics Ogre games. But I think this is easily the best N64 role-playing game and is just a delight from start to finish. Incredible story, wonderful, wonderful music, great art style that works really well with the N64 sprite limitations. It's a great game. Then we got 2 Capcom fighters to round out the top 5. Mars' Capcom 2. I don't know what else I could really say about it beyond it is the most chaotic fun that I think a fighting game has ever been. Just a hodgepodge of sprites pulled from everything, honestly, with some new stuff added, especially on the Capcom side. And it's one of the best fighting games ever made. It's just really, really fun and loose and mind-blowing in a lot of ways. I just really think it's a great fighting game, even though it is essentially how many sprites can we yank out of everything else we've ever made video game. And then Project Justice, a wonderful 3D fighter in terms of graphics, but it's still mostly on a 2D plane. I love the art style of Project Justice and Rival Schools. I think it's so good. And it transfers over really, really well. It still plays well. Capcom Fighting Collection 2 included it, and that's so wonderful. And they added a ton of home features, like all of this hidden characters and a bit of the story mode. It's great. Just an absolutely marvelous fighting game. One of Capcom's best using 3D models in this early period. And highly worth checking out. 2001, we got Capcom vs. SNK 2. Outside of Street Fighter 6, this is my choice for Capcom's best fighting game of all time. I really think that it does so much right by loosening up the ratio system, brought in even more characters from both parties, and the additional grooves that you could pick. Just, it really makes this game one of the most option-rich fighting games of that era. And honestly, just like this team up of Capcom versus SNK is just a legendary one to me. It's like the way that the story sets everything up, the stakes just sound so high. Having Akuma and Rugal become their super versions as the final bosses, if you do well, is so cool. I really like so much about CVS 2. Even though I'm not super great at it, I love just the whole vibe of that game, top to bottom. Silent Hill 2, the first sequel to the Silent Hill series, which would go on to essentially define the Silent Hill series for a long time. I do think that the remake manages to be overall better. There's a couple things that the remake falters on that the original doesn't, but I think that on the whole, the PS2 one is still an excellent game, worth playing if you want to track down a PlayStation 2 or an original Xbox to experience the game as it was originally presented by Team Silent. I think that it is incredibly moody, one of the best narratives, even if it's a dark one, in all of video games. Just the storytelling is superb in that game. And it's just a really powerful, unsettling experience. Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney. I think the first Phoenix Wright game, which came out on the GBA in 2001. You'll notice that it's the DS case on here. just to make things easier. We're going off of original release dates most of the time on this list, so that's why Phoenix Wright's showing up all the way back here. I think that the original set of cases are strong and set a really good precedent for the games to come, although the way that they handled the punishment system is definitely the weakest. They make it a lot better in later games, I think. But it is a really strong start for an incredible series. One of my favorites from Capcom, honestly. Super Smash Bros. Melee. Monumental game for the GameCube, especially when it really didn't have a strong selling point right out the gate. Luigi's Mansion and Pikmin were fine. Wave Race Blue Storm was definitely disappointing in comparison. But we didn't have like a Mario or a Zelda right out the gate. But Melee came out and basically made the statement that the N64's multiplayer was being carried on by the GameCube, and was such a huge improvement over the N64 game. This is still a beloved title, and I wonder if at some point we're going to get it on Nintendo Classics, given how fervent the fan base is for it. But huge game for Nintendo, especially in the early days of the GameCube, where they desperately needed a killer app, and this delivered on one. And last but not least is the original Shadow Hearts on the PS2. This game is so fascinating. I wouldn't say it's a great game. I would call it a good game. But the fact that it is a horror-tinged RPG that didn't shy away from the fact it's a horror-tinged RPG with some of the wildest enemy designs and blood and like appropriately mature content, that also, for the most part, tells an interesting story. It's a shame about the localization with the voices that they chose, because it really undercuts what's going on with Shadow Hearts. It's also a little bit on the sexist side of things with pandery character designs for its women characters. But I think that the battle system in Shadow Hearts is one of the best in the entire role-playing genre. And while Covenant and From the New World are considered better games, I still haven't got through both of those. And I have got through the original Shadow Hearts. And I do think that there's just something really special about how much they committed to making a mature rated role-playing game in 2001. 2002 brings us Metroid Prime. I love Metroid Prime. I think that Retro, out of nowhere, delivered one of the best Metroid experiences I've personally played. They've not been able to do it as well since, but I am hopeful for Beyond getting them back on track with something that lives up to the original. But I think that Metroid Prime does so much right with converting a Metroid experience into a first-person shooter format. Resident Evil Remake still hasn't been remade from this game, and it's still definitive classic survival horror. One of the best classic RE games, easily. It stands tall with the modern remakes of RE2 and 3 and 4, in my opinion. Does really well with modernizing just enough and giving the game such a powerful, distinctive visual look that even in the HD remaster looks incredible. Like, Capcom were cooking back in 2002 when they originally made this game. It's phenomenal. Age of Mythology, like the only real-time strategy game that I actually like. It's funny. I like the vibe of Age of Mythology because it's a little bit slower. I think there's more emphasis on building than there is on fighting, which I greatly appreciate. I do have this now on PS5 with the HD remake that they've done, and I need to get my mouse attached to it because I'm just not clicking in my head with the controller controls. But I do think the original Age of Mythology is an incredible experience that I really, really like a lot. And the music is also so good. Ace Attorney Justice for All brings my favorite Ace Attorney character, Francisca, into the mix and is easily my choice for, out of the original trilogy, probably the best game. Although the circus case is awful. I don't like that case. The rest of them, though, are solid. Pearl's also a great addition. And it refines the trial system to have Cyclops and a life bar instead of like missing 5 and you're done. So there's like weight to some of the missed choices that you make. So I think it's just a better game and better written. As stated in the last episode, Soul Calibur 1 on the Dreamcast is my personal favorite of the series. I think that was an impossible ask to follow that up with how good that port was, because it truly was more than a port, it was a remake. Soul Calibur 2 did an admirable job trying to replicate the high notes that Soul Calibur 1 had. In my opinion, doesn't quite hit them all, but certainly does better than anything else that followed. Having Link in the game is novel, because I only played the GameCube one, and the fact that it's on Nintendo Classics, although the online is not great, is nice. Just jumping back in for a little bit and goofing around, it was like, yeah, this is a good feeling game. It's a fun game. I don't like it as much as Soul Calibur 1, but it's still a really solid 3D fighter. 2003 brings 2 of my top 10 games of all time together with Beyond Good and Evil and Castlevania Aria of Sorrow. Beyond Good and Evil is easily Ubisoft's crowning achievement that was underappreciated in its time. I am thankful that the company that exists now still has some cognition of this game deserving more than it got. It's been remade twice. The second time is actually worth investing in if Ubisoft wasn't such a shitty company. I own the 20th anniversary through very convoluted means of not paying them money. I need to actually sit down and play through the whole game in the 20th anniversary because I have not done that yet, but I can say that visually it's very striking. It modernizes everything really well. The new soundtrack, beautiful. Christopher Herral has come back and rearranged everything and makes it even more emotional and more impactful than the original already was. What a great story, too. I love Beyond Good and Evil's story. I think it's a really strong narrative. And Jade is one of my absolute favorite characters in anything. I really have to flip-flop between her and Samus as my favorite video game character, because I think that she's just so strong. It's a real shame that Ubisoft has devolved and become such a terrible place. Sexist, misogynistic, racist, bigoted place. That there were people in charge, even at the time of this game's development and Sands of Time, that were just brutalizing their employees. It really it's like the contradiction between what Beyond Good and Evil is talking about and the reality that was going on at the studio is striking. And perhaps makes the story even stronger because it's almost like a plea to fix things that are fucked up. So that's one of the things that I think I really respect about Beyond Good and Evil, even though there was some dubious things going on at upper management at the time. I think that it's a game that needed to be made by that team at that time to reflect not only the world then for them, but today. it's a very powerful game and tells an incredibly political story. Yes, Ubisoft makes political games. Did you know? Castlevania Aria of Sorrow is the best Castlevania game to me. I think it's still the best feeling, best to control. Soma is so responsive and so fun to play. I don't mind grinding at all in this game. I could do it for so long. There was so much footage I cut out of my Let's Play of me grinding because I like doing it. The soul system is brilliant. The move to a more futuristic time zone is really clever and gives the game a different feel in terms of its narrative. It's one of the better narratives in the series as well, in my opinion. Really visually strong for the Game Boy Advance, and a pretty good soundtrack considering the limitations of the Game Boy Advance. We're never going to get Symphony on the Game Boy Advance, but I think that there was a definite effort to make the tracks work really well on the limitations of the hardware, given Circle of the Moon and Harmony of Dissonance's issues in their own respective ways on trying to get the sound to work the way they wanted. Silent Hill 3, my favorite of the series. I love Heather Mason. I think she is one of the best protagonists in a video game. And while the story is a step back from Silent Hill 2 and how revolutionary it was tackling that subject matter, it's still pretty good. The voice acting is solid. The graphics for the PS2 are among the best the system ever had, in my opinion. The music is my favorite as well in the series. You're Not Here is one of my favorite video game songs of all time. Just a really great horror experience that takes the events of the first game and follows up on them, I think, mostly successfully. Fire Emblem, the Blazing Blade, or as it's just known in North America and I believe Europe, Fire Emblem. This was the introduction to this series for Western audiences, and it's a really solid start. Len is still my favorite Fire Emblem character, and up there is one of my favorite video game characters of all time. Really interesting that Jade, Soma Cruz, Heather Mason, and Lynn all came from 2003, and they're all like top 10 video game characters for me. I think that the gameplay is still pretty solid, although pretty hard in comparison to a lot of the later games. The music is pretty good, the story's pretty good, but really the thing that I still love about Fire Emblem OG, for us, is the animations. The sprite animations are incredible in this game. And it really took Intel Engage to get a 3D game to look remotely as cool as Fire Emblem on the GBA. Last but not least in the top 5 is Mario Golf Toadstool Tour, which is my favorite golf game, and I want it on Nintendo Classics so bad, as I said in the recent Mario video. I think Mario Golf Toadstool Tour looks great, has a really catchy soundtrack. The courses are varied and interesting and have cute little cameos like the Pikmin coming out of bushes on the Mushroom Kingdom courses. It really makes what Camelot has done with Super Rush on the Switch stand out really poorly in comparison. Alright, 2004. Dragon Quest VIII, the pinnacle of the series for me. I just don't think any of the others have gotten close to how good Dragon Quest VIII is. And I think the 3DS version is even better. But the PlayStation 2 one is a gorgeous looking game, perhaps the most realized Toriyama's art style had been replicated in a video game at that point. At the time, the orchestrated soundtrack was really good. It's a shame how bigoted Sugiyama was, and it really makes it difficult for me to want to listen to the music of Dragon Quest outside of the games. Because I know he was just filled with hatred and malice towards people. But it has a great combat system. I love exploring in it, especially in the 3DS version. Yangus and Jessica are great characters. I think the hero is also pretty solid. Angela's a ladies' man, which is just not my archetype. They added Red and Mori to the lineup in the 3DS version, and both of them are wonderful. It's a really good game with great voice acting as well. Super solid. Easily the best Dragon Quest in my opinion. Sly 2, Band of Thieves. Really great stealth platformer. I miss the Sly Cooper series so much. Even though 3 and Thieves in Time messed with the formula just enough for me to feel that they're both much weaker than Sly 2, this is a phenomenally well-crafted game from beginning to end, with only a couple points that are a little obnoxious, and they're usually like quick time event type of things. I love the cast. The voices are fantastic. It looks great, has a really fun soundtrack to it, plays beautifully. What a great game. I forgot it should have been on my top 111 until I recorded the original version of this video. And then I was like, oh, I forgot Sly 2 when I redid that whole list. So it's back on there because it deserves to be. Metroid Zero Mission. This was the year that the GameCube and the GBA once again got Metroid titles, but this year I flip-flopped my preference. I think that Zero Mission is far better. It is a great remake, for the most part, of the original Metroid, streamlining a lot of the wandering about by giving you a map, subtle directions on where to go, and adding in a lot of Super Metroid, Metroid Fusion, flair to the proceedings, so that way it's a better feeling game as well. Really solid soundtrack as well, one of my favorites of the GBA. I do think that them retconning Kraid and making him big in that game was a bad decision, but that and shine sparking is way too prevalent in this game. They got a little too ham with expecting you to shine spark everywhere to get like 25% of the power-ups. It's really annoying. But beyond that, I think that Zero Mission is a really great game, and I even like the stealth segment at the end. It's the only time the Zero suit made sense. Cave Story. This is the original PC freeware made by Pixel. This is not referencing the Nicalis-owned IP that they have effectively strip-mined of all of its worth and trashed by just brand association by being absolute crap. Cave Story, as originally released, is a brilliant indie game made by one person who built an incredible story and world, and it's a captivating game just from start to finish. There's parts of it I don't like all that much, but in the grand scheme of excellent indie games, you have to have Cave Story in there because it is a really well crafted game. And again, it's horrid that Nicalis has their mitts on it at this point. Next up is Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door. The best in that particular line of games, in my opinion. The remake is even better. I think that the remake gives the visuals even more class. It's like pops even more. The soundtrack has been rearranged, and I think it's even better. There's some quality of life stuff going on too that makes some of the backtracking easier. On the whole, even in its GameCube original form, this is the second best of the role-playing games with Mario in them. Fun story, super wild characters. Intelligent Systems really got to go ham with writing and originality here. That was a lot of fun. Some of the chapters are a little bit tedious. I think that the arena chapter is one of those, even though the writing is really strong and it's super silly. It kind of takes a while to get through it. That being said, I think it's a great game and definitely a high point on the GameCube with an excellent remake that manages to mostly improve things as far as I'm concerned. That is done and dusted. Another looking back in the books. As I said at the top, the next episode will be about my visit to Gamers in Control in Salinas. which I am super excited to go trade in a whole bunch of things. I've already recorded that part of the video, so I will see you next weekend with that big update. But until then, friends, please take care, and I'll see you soon. Last but not least is Public Mario. Nope.